like, I remember I think I had my first police interaction was like a ticket. But my first police interaction was on the campus of Columbus State. And I probably thought about this once since it happened. Um, and I was like, when I moved there, I was just like excited. I was doing whatever I could. I was all over the place, all over the place. But I remember having an interaction, and part of my problem being all over the place is that people knew my name. So I would just do things, and all of a sudden, there's a problem. I'm in somebody's office. I was always causing problems. But I remember I was working for this company, small company. First rule that I probably broke. I'm in this rural Georgia area, and I'm working for this small white company. I probably broke the like seventh rule of being a black man. Why would you do that to yourself? But I remember leaving and really pissing off the lady when I left. And I was like, okay, I just need my final check. And I remember, Alan, I actually think I got you to take me to get my last check from this lady. And something told me it's usually not wise to just bring a group of people to a place of business, but something just told me, like, we rode to get this check deep. We just rode deep. We get the check. The lady told me that she wasn't giving me my check. Basically, that I needed to give her a 2 weeks notice, just kind of like BS the entire way. So I was just like, whatever, I'll leave, go back to school. I get a call from the school police department. They tell me that they found, I think I had lost something the week before. They tell me they found it. The next thing you know, I am inside of an interrogation room on campus. They're questioning me and asking me where I went today. And they asked me if I assaulted this lady at her place of business. And I'm like, no, I worked there. I went to go get my check. Like, I'm so blindsided because I'm surrounded by police officers on campus, this little police station, and it's literally like across from where our CAF was. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I went to this racist one, and I'm thinking to myself, I had to be 19. Like, this is insane. The next thing you know, they're like, well, we're going to have to take you downtown. I'm like, are you kidding? Like, for what? And they walked me out of this building in cuffs. And it just so happens, because it was near the CAF, like, and where in Columbus, everybody was nosy. We were all nosy. But you could see me. It's just like you see me walking. Had it not been for the fact that Alan took me and we were really deep in that car, they see me being escorted to this police car in handcuffs. And like I mentioned this interaction because you don't forget the details when you're placed in cuffs for no reason at all. So we get to the car. Alan ends up walking over, asked the police officer what's going on, and we had a different type of boldness then. But the officer's like, he's saying whatever, and he's like, well, were you with him today? Like, son, were you with him today? Because you can be in cuffs too. Like, that was the demeanor. Like, all of y'all went up there and assaulted this woman. He was like, I was there, but there was no assault. So at this point, there was like, I wasn't truly under arrest. They were just trying to coerce me into going with them based on a he said, she said, but now he said. So the officer sitting there like trying to figure out what to do. He's like, now tell me what happened again. I'm telling her, like, I quit this job. I went to get my final check. They weren't answering. They weren't responding by email. I went to get the check. He's like, well, son, it looks like you're gonna miss out on this one. Don't go back up there. They let me out of the cuffs. And I remember that entire day. I'm like blown. Like I can pull myself together, but my mind, why did this happen? How did this happen? How could something like this happen off of the strength of just one white woman's word? Because if I call the police and tell them that somebody came over here and assaulted me right now without proof, that's that. That's the end of that. And so that kind of shaped my perspective. That was campus, like a place that I'm paying you people to be educated here and treated this way. Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. Do you remember, or have you had a time that you had an interaction, an unexpected or unintentional interaction with the police, whether it was de-escalated or not? Do you have a time like that?
Yep. Mine was in Columbus as well. And it's pretty funny because I was living on the north side of Columbus, which is, I guess, supposed to be better. But I was living in Hunters Run apartments, and I was coming home just from like one of my late classes because I was working part time, paying my way through school or whatever. So I remember coming home. It was about maybe 9, 10 o'clock, and I got pulled over. And I remember thinking to myself, "Why am I being pulled over?" Because I was not speeding. There was, it was nothing. It was a normal night, and so I got pulled over. And what surprised me was it was an Asian police officer and it was a white police officer. So they both approached, and my dad and my mom always told me, let down all your windows whenever you get pulled over. The normal speech, right? So I let everything down, and the only question that they asked me was, "Is this your vehicle?" Now, mind you, I had a Dodge Durango in college. I wasn't driving like a Lexus or Maserati or anything. It was just a Dodge Durango, and I looked at the guy as he's almost like he's trying to provoke me. And I was like, yes, it is my vehicle. And I had to provide all this proof. And I gave it to him. They came back. Then the next question, what are you doing on this side of town? Sir, I live here. This is my apartment. It's right up the street. And I just remember thinking to myself, like I was boiling inside because the questions were really just insulting. But on the other half of that, if I'd have lost my temper, there is anything could have happened. This was before camera phones, really. And I mean, I worked at a cell phone place, and we didn't have like this camera video type, proof that we have now. And I was like, man, just calm down, keep your composure, because this can go left real quick. And I stayed there. I kept my hands on the steering wheel, and after a couple more questions, they let me go. But I remember I was just like, why did that even happen? And another part of me was like, the other guy is a minority as well. Like, why is he even letting this happen? He just stayed quiet the whole time. So that was kind of like my first interaction. That happened maybe 2 or 3 other times, but that was the first. And it was just shocking, man. Just the bait questions that they were asking me to try and piss me off. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and it's the first time you remember the details of the first time, because it's like, okay, you're really examining yourself, especially if like the first thing that comes to your mind is what your mom and dad told you or what your parent told you. This is what I know to do. This is the right thing to do. Plus, I know I'm not going to be disrespectful. I want to live, so I'm already saying you're regurgitating what you know to be right. And it still feels like the pressure is like, what? Like, why is this attack happening?
Right.
It's just hard to get past that feeling in that moment, but you have to. What about you? Have you had an interaction like that, or like a confrontation with the police officer?
Yeah, man. Again, college, January 2008. I'm pretty sure it was the 23rd because my birthday was the 22nd, and I was in DC for the inauguration of President Barack Obama. So we're coming down. I'm in Georgia. I have finally made it to Georgia. So I'm in Georgia, and when you ride down 85, there's that long stretch of just land, and so I'm driving. I got me and 2 of my boys with me. We're packed. I'm driving a silver Kia Reno. Okay. I see the cops, right? And I know that I'm a speeder. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to work on it, but I know I'm a speeder. So when I see them ahead of me, I'm like, nah, we gotta chill, relax. You know what I mean? So I'm going the speed limit. You know what I mean? Then I see a cop come up behind me. So I'm going hella slow. I'm nervous, you know what I mean? I'm a black man. Inauguration just happened. I'm pretty sure cops are not happy that a black man is the president. You know what I'm saying? So, they put the lights on. I pull over. Just like Alan said, I know the routine, roll the windows down, get your license out ready, and stuff like that. So I come, he comes up, gets my stuff, and then he's like, can you step out the car? I'm like, cool. You know what I mean? My boy is up. He's like, yo, just relax, chill. Like, it's gonna be all right. I'm like, all right, cool. In my mind, I'm just nervous about the ticket. Like, I ain't got money. I'm a broke college, so I ain't got money to be paying no tickets and stuff like that. Have my insurance run up, let alone what you could be doing to me. So I get out the car and he starts like, yo, where you going? I'm going to school. Going to school. He's like, where you coming from? I'm like, I'm coming from DC, the inauguration. You know what I mean? I'm like, he was like, inauguration. I said, yeah, Barack Obama just became president. You know what I mean? I'm like, I was there. Like, did you watch it? He was like, I don't even know if he answered me, but he was just like, okay, y'all going to school. I was like, yeah, we're going to school. And he's like, the Reno, it's like a halfback. So you can see inside, you got pillows, suitcases, and stuff like that. We ain't got no, we ain't trafficking or nothing like that. And then he was just like, okay, cool. And then he was like, all right, keep it moving. And I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm grateful, but at the same time, I'm like, you just stopping me for no reason. Like, and I think that was my first experience of driving while black. You know what I mean? You hear the stories from again your OGs, your parents, your uncles, your cousins, and they tell you about this, but you don't really know what it's like until you actually experience it. For no apparent reason, no ticket, no my registration, none of that was off. You know what I mean they just stopped me just because you see 3 black men in a car driving through rural Georgia, and so I've always had to, have that type of, keep your head on a swivel type mentality. Even just like Alan said about the plantation stuff. When I was working for this white nonprofit, you know what I mean? They would take us to these plantations. Now there's only me and my mans. We don't about white people. And I used to always tell them like, yo, we go somewhere where it's not black people, I'm with y'all. You get what I'm saying? Like, and they would laugh and joke. I'd be like, yeah, y'all think it's funny, but I'm serious. Like anything go down, I'm with y'all. You know what I mean? Because anything can happen. You know what I mean? Like I said, you see Confederate flags riding. The good old boys are still out. You just don't never know what could happen. And so it's like, but white people don't think about that. They don't think about the type of trauma, the type of things that we have to deal with when we make a decision and how we move and how we gotta hold ourselves together for them. You know what I mean? We gotta present ourselves away for them so they don't feel threatened, so they don't feel scared, nobody cares or thinking about like what's our mental health situation going, like what is going on, and why is my heart beating out of my chest? Why am I so nervous? You know what I mean? Because I've seen and heard of cases like Rodney King's and others that people died out here. You're right. This is pre camera phone.
Yeah.
Sounding old out here. Pre camera phones.
I mean, we
You
can
know
go
what I
back to
mean?
Rodney
Facebook
King.
Live.
We can go to February with Ahmaud Arbery, and
Fact.
this man is jogging, and I don't really care if he was jogging. I don't care what he was doing. He was just out. Like there's nobody else that has to be prepared that way. And I think that even though we are prepared that way, there's so much that goes through you at that moment. You can never be fully prepared for the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what, like when you leave today, you're hoping that you come back, but you don't know. And there's no way to know. Do you think that those first interactions with police kind of shape the way that you carry yourself?
Facts. Big facts. They definitely do. Like the way, not here's the thing, like you are already conditioned again by your parents or your mentors or life society how the police are off rip. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then you encounter them, and so your experience is already so you put that your what you've been conditioned with your experience, and then you put all the stuff that's going around because of the social media era where you're seeing people literally gunned down in your face, and then the news is running it 50 times over and over and over again. So whether it's Ahmaud Arbery or Breonna Lawrence or uh Trayvon Martin, or the list can just continue to go on. You're conditioned to think and live in fear and anxiety and trauma over and over again. So yeah, it's like you can even have police people in your family. Like I got an aunt who's a detective. You know what I mean? I love her to death. She would look out for me and stuff like that. But you got that experience with her, and then you got like 5 experiences with other police officers that don't have that same type of love, that don't. And the worst, man, the worst part of it is that some of them be your own kind. Some of them look just like you. You know what I mean?
Well,
Who
I
will
don't think
treat
the
you the
bias,
exact same way.
although there is a racial bias, I don't think the bias is limited to white people. I think when it comes to police officers, I definitely think there is white bias and there is a space to say white racial bias is a problem, and it's something that we deal with, and it's something that needs to be addressed. But on the flip side, I also think when it comes to police officers, and I'll say this all the time, it's black police officers with bias, white police officers with bias, Alan, your experience, Asian police officers with bias. Because of this color of skin, you must be doing something wrong. If I probe long enough, there's something there.
Mhm.
And even knowing your rights, even being empowered to say, oh, and I think that's the flip side. That's hard, right? We teach our children to protect themselves. We teach our nephews and nieces to protect themselves, not necessarily state your rights, because your rights can still have something happened to you that you didn't prepare for. So I think, Alan, has it shaped the way that you kind of interact,
Yeah,
carry yourself?
yeah, I definitely had a trauma, just like my man said. The trauma is there and it's deeply rooted. I mean, I would be lying to myself to say whenever I'm stopped or I encounter the police that I'm just completely calm. That's never the case. But one thing since I've had a son is I try not to pass that trauma to him. And so I've made it my point to make sure that he's engaging with positive images with the police. Now I still educate him. I'm not gonna send him out there unprepared at all. But I just don't want him to have that trauma that I have and that a lot of us have that we experience all the time. But I mean, it's hard not to see it. And because he asks questions every time he sees, the media, the hashtags. I mean, we went to the Million Man March in DC. I took him, I think he was maybe 7 or 8 years old. And we all had hashtags on our shirt. And, I had to explain it to him, why all these hashtags. But it's, I try to pay it forward, man. But that the trauma is real with us, and it definitely impacts how you interact with law enforcement, just in general. It's always kind of a distrust. You question everything. Like, is this a backstory to something else? Like, is this a plot? It's never fully on. Like, I just trust and believe in you, and that's sad because they're here to protect and serve. Every race, and if you don't have that trust in them, it's just always a bad situation, man. Always.
Yeah. Before we take a break, I want to ask this question. Do you think that trauma, it's interesting that you brought that up. Do you think that trauma, whether it's protection mechanisms or distrust, do you think that trauma transfers itself into other relationships and other interactions with other people?
Well, it could. It could. I mean, I would say that it carries over into just social conversations. I mean, we all probably are social on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. But even in how you interact with people, you're always thinking from your point of view of distrust, and they may not be. And
Yeah.
sometimes, that carries over to cooler talk at work, or it could be anywhere. So I definitely think it spills over into different relationships.
I feel it. X you?
Yeah, I definitely do. Excuse if y'all hear drums in the background. My brother-in-law is a producer, so he's doing his thing. But yeah, definitely, I feel like trauma definitely does transfer from place to place or person to person. Because just like Alan said, like if you have a certain experience, you're gonna look at certain people, certain things that type of way, right? Same way as if you get heartbroken, right? You get heartbroken, you think every woman break your heart the same way, so you put up these defense mechanisms around you, regardless of where you go, and uh, it influences how you interact with people. So I think so let's say authority. Let's just talk about authority in general, right? If you got an issue with authority from your parents' perspective, then you're gonna have an issue with authority when it comes to the police. You're gonna have an issue with authority when it comes to government officials, when it comes to principals or administration or any your boss. You know what I mean? Because like whatever experience you have has now shaped you to think that authority is this way and this is how I need to interact with them. You know what I'm saying? Until you have an experience that's counter to what you have experienced. That's the only way you're going to be able to probably hold the two in tension to be able to say, okay, well, this time this experience was good, but this time the experience was bad. Does that mean all experience is going to be bad? Maybe not, because how could I justify this experience over here? You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, yeah, I think if not checked and if not dealt with, it definitely will transfer to other places.
Sure. Yeah, I think I probably want to explore that a little bit more, because I think that it these all of the experiences, right? Our childhood, the way that we're conditioned to interact with police officers, that's a conditioning. Then how we feel after that happens, and not really being able to express that in any way. It's something that you have to deal with, especially if you have a family, especially if you have kids. You got to keep it pushing, because you have to be there for them. So you don't really have time to address this trauma. You don't really have time to unpack and dig into why you're feeling this way, or why it's still on your mind 7 days later, and you're paranoid every time you go somewhere. Like, I don't know if I want to leave. I don't want to be driving at night. And but you have to run. You gotta handle things. You got errands. You have to run, and you have to keep living life. So these things impact us in so many ways. I think that we talked about the trauma, like, right before we wrapped, and about how in so many ways that trauma can be addressed. And I think, X, you alluded to the fact that you could address that trauma and just don't let it run rampant. And Ellen, you kind of alluded to not necessarily making your trauma the trauma of your son's trauma. And I think that that's a key piece of it as well. I think so many times it doesn't just translate, though, into relationships. It kind of translates into day-to-day life. So, like, as you enter the workplace, and your interactions, depending on where you work and who you work with and how you work, and it rears itself everywhere. Let me not diminish, like, profession, and it only happens in these professions or in these types of jobs. It happens in the church, evangelical circles. It happens in corporate America. It happens in retail America. It happens. It happens everywhere.
Yeah.
How do you feel like, or have you ever felt like I kind of share for me that small job that I had when I was at, it was like one of 15 jobs I had in my 2 years in Columbus. I was literally doing them. I think back and just like, I was doing the most. I probably just needed to slow down, but that experience taught me, like, I was now cognizant. I don't want to work for nobody's white company owned by the white husband and white wife. And that's how specific I was because of that situation. I don't, like, that white woman literally did, and this was what happened to me. That white woman she accused me of assaulting her, and her employees were standing behind her. So why would I deliberately put myself back into a situation? And I think about it like that. Have you ever had a situation that kind of lingers into what you do, or into your work life?
I'm gonna defer.
I mean, I'll speak.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to go, Alan?
Oh,
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying you. You got it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I think for me, again, going into so when I worked for this company called Young Life, it's a Christian-based nonprofit, and that was my first time really working for like white people in that type of space, like a white evangelical Christian background type situation. And you know how I am, Alex. I'm real bold, Afrocentric, militant, you know what I mean? But I'm a good dude, but I'm about our business. And so I was really myself all the time. I didn't turn down for anybody and for no reason. And all of a sudden, every time like I said something or I vocalized something, or I might have said I was unapologetically black, or some white person would be getting offended talking about what would you do if you know, if I said I'm unapologetically white, you know what I mean? And then my response is like, you get to be unapologetically white every day. Yet this whole country is built on you being unapologetically white. You don't have to turn down, you know, or I remember when the Black Lives Matter movement was really going on and Cat was taking a knee, and you know, I was talking to a bunch of college leaders, and there was this conversation about where should we stand, how do we move and stuff like that. And I told him, like, we need to be standing. If you care about us, and we caring about all kids are black, you know what I mean? We need to let them know that your leaders believe that Black lives matter. You know what I'm saying? We need to stand for that. You know what I'm saying? And all these white people would come up to me, they start confessing their guilt and their trauma and all that stuff to me and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, cool, that's cool. We'll do something about it. Like, use your privilege and do something about it. And I think, but
I
the
know you
problem
said
is,
that. I know you said those
right.
things.
You know what I mean? And the thing though is that sometimes they wouldn't come to me, they come to like a black superior to me, and a black superior guy sit there and talk to me. And so for me, now I'm looking at this man like, yo, are you the house, dude? Like, what's up? Like, you not in the field with us? You not out here in the struggle in the trenches? You working for them? Like, what's good? I'm looking at you, and then I'm looking at y'all like, yo, y'all so fake and phony. Like, why can't y'all just come to me like a man? And you're supposed to be godly, and sit there and have a conversation. Last time I checked, scripture said if you got an art with a brother, you go to them. That's last time I checked. So I'm like, yo, what's going on? And so for me, that type of mentality has made me be less trustworthy or open to those of the Caucasian persuasion, because it's like I thought you can't be trusted. Like, you'll stab me in the back, you'll sit there and do something. So whenever I'm around, I'm not as open, I'm not as, you know, friendly and stuff. Because I'm like, yo, I know the moment I do that, you just gonna find an opportunity to politicize or capitalize or pretty much hijack anything that I got going on for your own gain. Because we see that in all types of spaces. You know what I'm saying? Like, as in the word of Black Panther, you know, we got to watch out for these colonizers, you know, and that's real. And maybe that's a bad thing for me to say. You know what I'm saying? But I
I
feel like
honestly think that I just feel like it's an honest thing to say. I feel like it's raw. I think it's a true. That is a true. Like, I'm smirking a little bit because I know that you've said all of these things. And I can imagine. I can imagine that. While I have probably said most of the same things, I am mostly in because of what decisions that I've made and actions that I've made. I'm mostly in black spaces these days, and I find ways to kind of share what my past is, so I can tell you what you're walking into. You can't, and I kind of use. I feel like everything that I've been through has been somewhat of a training ground. Like, I feel like every experience that I've had, I can use it and turn it and teach, because there's no way. Like, I'm not putting myself back. Like, when I sit here, and this is part of the reason that this dialogue is important. I'm glad that you were just brutally honest with. This is where, like, it's hard for me to trust. You say, we say, and we sit here and profess the same faith, but you're conniving and trifling and all of these things in Jesus' name. So I get what you're coming from. I totally understand that. I feel like part of that, I take that, and I don't mind teaching it. I don't mind sharing it. But I sit as a product of Atlanta, like a product, and I say publicly, I think Atlanta is probably the most pro-black place in the world, in America, because while the world may see like Black Hollywood and the United people of Black Hollywood, what you see growing up as a kid in Atlanta is you see Black doctors, you see Black dentists, you see Black teachers, you see Black mayors. So what that says to a Black child, like it says to every other child that sees this all the time, is that there's nothing that I can't be. I love that. That's somebody that I've been gone from Atlanta. It's now I'm headed into 4 years. It's crazy that it's been so long. I mean, that time has gone so fast. But I sit and look, and I'm thinking that, like, with what, as I've continued to evolve and continue to grow, and I know where I was there, probably because I was in so many black spaces, I just was like removed from the possibility of just being, you know, the next hashtag. But I sit and look, and I watch like legislation, and I watch, and we'll kind of go there. But I sit and I watch that, and I'm like, yo, I had plans. I thought I was gonna go back home, but how could I deliberately bring myself back to a state that, like, look at the news over the last month. What the hell? So I think, and I think that's where I am. Alan, how about you? Have you seen that has that trauma ever followed you into the workplace in any way?
It's two instances that I remember where it followed me into the workplace. One, I used to park cars at parties at some of those plantations in high school, and it wasn't anything that anyone said to me. It was the imagery, and at those plantations, I never willingly went on any of them, but the party was there, so I was there. And I remember seeing shackles on like doors at the party, and I was like,
Shackles,
"Is it?"
like
Yes,
slave shackles.
yes. That's the immediate thing that I connected with. And I was like, "Do I understand heritage? I get it. I'm a very neutral person at times, but what part of the heritage are we just gonna continue to keep to just oppress a whole other race? Like, why are we continuing to say that this is a part of a legacy of a plantation, or this is my ancestors part? When are people gonna stand up and say, okay, I am not racist, but my grandfather probably was? Like, and we don't need to continue this legacy of this heritage. Like, we don't need to have these shackles on this plantation door, on multiple doors, in order for this to be a plantation going forward.
Right.
Because nobody's living there. What's the point? And so stuff like that, man, is kind of what I saw then in high school. And then fast forward to college, there was an incident where some money went missing. I was working for a cell phone company, and it was about $20,000 went missing. And I swear, I got questioned. I feel I got questioned more than anyone. And at that time, I was balling in college. I mean, I didn't have that typical struggling eating ramen noodles. Like, I had money in my pocket. Because like Alex, I was working a whole lot of jobs, throwing parties, whatever I could do to put money in my pocket. I was doing it legally. And so I was like, I don't, right, you got to stress the legal part, right? But it was just funny to me, like how I got so many questions about it until I just erupted. And that's when I go back to that part where I say I'm neutral at times. When I get pushed to a limit, I just erupted. And I was like, why am I continually getting questioned about this $20,000? I was like, I don't need it. I'm not buying anything. Like, what? Why are you continuing to press me? And I'm continuing to be in these meetings going on for a month about this $20,000. I was like, just look at the cameras. And what it boiled down to is they didn't have a camera where the money got stolen. And they end up finding who it was because he started buying expensive dogs and all this other crap. But it was just, I was the number one suspect, and I couldn't think of any other reason why except for the color of my skin. Just,
Do you feel like when the money went missing, do you feel like you already knew that you were
oh,
about to be a suspect?
man, listen, when that money went missing, I started turning in stuff that they didn't even ask me to. I swear, like I was turning in, like we had so many phones till it built up. I started bringing stuff back because I knew it was going to come on me. Like I just felt it. And I was like, look, hey, you can look through all this stuff, whatever type of investigation you need, I give it to you. I was like, I don't need to be on no type of radars. I'm about to graduate college. I'm not worried about this $20,000, man, at all. So
I think what's interesting is that like these stories and like we recount these things because this is life and this is what it is. It's not like you're not putting on for anything. But I think what this says, like what it says to me is like we talk about how we have to live in multiple realities when we first start dealing with white people. But the truth is, there's more than one reality that we have to live within. There are multiple realities that we are, and
Mhm.
oftentimes, we're taken for being simple or, not making wise decisions. But the average person is not trying to manage and balance being 5 people in 5 different situations. And so I think that plays a part. Like, it's not a part that we talk about often, but that plays a heavy part in why sometimes it's not as easy to break through barriers to have surface level, I mean, more than surface level conversations with us, because we keep things very surface level just because of the fact that we have to carry all of this. If I'm a Black man that happens to be in this place at the wrong time, I am undoubtedly the first one accused. And I think that there's something to that. It's something that I don't know. I think that during this lifetime we're tasked with it. I don't see it as something that we will never, like, I don't see that piece going anywhere.
Unmuted Nation, weekdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on Boss FM Talk.